With massive layoffs in nearly every sector, weakness in manufacturing, car sales and housing, and the biggest one-month decline in the trade deficit since the financial crisis, the economic picture is not looking good. Bottom line, now is the time to own gold, which is why the experts at Stansberry Research just stepped forward with a major gold prediction, arguing gold could soar as high as $3,000 by the end of the year, possibly even higher. You can find out why and get instant access to their #1 gold investment today. It's not bullion, an ETF, or a mining stock, but in the past, this gold strategy could have made you nearly 50x your money. Considering how quickly the price of gold has been moving in recent weeks, you don't want to waste any time missing out on the gains these experts believe are in store for this gold stock. To get a copy of his new free report with all the details, simply go to goldmaniareport.com. Again, that's goldmaniareport.com for a free copy of his new report. This is Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to the summer series where we round up some of your favorite all-time guests and pack them in back to back. So please welcome back Marc Cohodes. He is the short seller, the famous short seller, I should say, that nailed FTX, SVB, Silvergate, so many more. Marc, always good to be with you. Welcome back.
Always fun to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, the last time we spoke, you said, hey, some traders are lucky with one call. I mean, you've had multiple calls, career-changing calls, back to back. You promised me you'd be taking a break, but that hasn't been the case.
I'm having fun.
You're having fun. So
I went to Italy for 3 weeks in May. So I took a bit of a break. It's one of those times, so I just keep swinging.
You just keep swinging. That's right. So we're going to talk about the past calls you mentioned on my show. I want to know who's on your naughty and nice list. So let's start with, first of all, just a general overview of the markets right now for you. I mean, what's your gut and feel of what's happening right now? I mean, a few weeks back, we saw a rush back into NASDAQ, back into the S&P. Do you feel the investor is back? There's excitement surrounding AI stocks. Just your general gut sentiment right now.
Well, as you know, I'm not really a macro guy.
Yes.
And I just try to pick stocks and see what gets me excited. I've always said, I think we're in a world of what you see is what you get. I don't think the economy is great. I don't think the economy is bad. I just think things are steady state. But the economy is sort of the stock market. And the government realizes that. And to the extent that the stock market is better, people feel like they have more money in their pocket and they're able to go spend. So I think a lot of it is consumer driven, and I think people are okay. They're sort of used to inflation. Inflation's coming down, at least the headline number, but no one's really that concerned. You know, the banks have recovered and everyone feels all right. It's I'm not really concerned. I'm not excited. I'm not nervous about the backdrop one way or the other. I think it's a stock pickers market, and that's what I like to do. So I think there's things you can own and you can make a lot of money at, and I think there's some garbage out there that you should avoid. So
perfect segue. Perfect segue to bring up the last time you were on. You were long Overstock, holding steady here. You were long Enovix, ENVX, up 66% in the past 3 months. You nailed it again, and you took your Twitter followers with you. You know, you're emerging as the white knight. Talk to us about ENVX and why you like it so much. I mean, what technology do they have in the lithium space that makes them different from other players?
Okay, so before I talk about Enovix, Overstock, and this garbage I hate, Trupanion.
Yeah, I was trying to save it.
I just want people to know that you need to do your own work, that these opinions are mine, and I want people to make money. I can't stand when people lose, but I don't want to be blamed or given credit if these things work or don't work. So I encourage everyone to always, think for themselves, do their own work, and if you think, it puts you way ahead of the game. So with Enovix, in my opinion, is going to change the way batteries are done. Instead of using lithium, they use silicon. And there's plenty of silicon available. And instead of rolling a battery like, the Duracells or the way batteries are made, they use a stacking technology where there's probably 40 layers in a very thin battery. And it works. I mean, they have 300 patents. They have 150 patents now, and they have 150 pending. And, everyone knows batteries are difficult. Batteries are hard to do. But they have a really, really, really strong management team from the semiconductor industry. And they're using semiconductor technology on batteries. So I think this, I'll tell anyone who'll listen, I think it's somewhere between a $200 to $300 stock or a $3 stock. If they can execute on scale, and I believe they can, I think it's going to change the way the world looks and uses batteries. If they can't, the stock is $3. And, I short stocks too, so I've been squeezed many times in my life, so I can afford the loss. Now, that's if it doesn't work. Now, since I started talking about Enovix, they beat first quarter production, they beat second quarter production. They announced a deal with the U.S. Army about a month ago, and the stock's taken off. Now, we're in a speculative time. And if you really, back up and think about it, everyone's handheld device, especially these Apple goggles that they introduced, everyone loves, and everyone's been raving about the goggles. The problem is it only lasts 2 hours. So if it only lasts 2 hours, the bottleneck is the battery. The bottleneck is power. So if these guys have a battery that can have the goggles go 8 to 9 hours instead of 2 hours, I think the goggles are a home run. And really, the guys at Apple have invested between 10 and 20 billion with a B in these goggles. So to me, it's a natural they're going to use the battery. But again, Enovix is going to have to scale the battery, and I think that's going to happen. And it's something that bears watching. I think it's going to be the next big thing. So I'm consistent. I mean, I've liked it.
Yeah.
And it's had ups and downs, but I'm an investor, and I really believe in it.
Have they contacted you? Has anyone contacted you from Enovix saying, "Hey, we see all the interest you've jumped up in our company"?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, I know these guys. I mean, I've been to the facility many times. I go back with TJ Rogers, who's the chairman. I mean, we go back 15 to 20 years, and he's been buying stock. I mean, they did a convert. He bought the convert. When the stock was down, he bought plenty of stock at the $10 level. The new CEO bought stock. A director bought stock. So in an environment where insiders are selling, insiders have actually been buying Enovix. So yeah, they're well aware of me. I'm a huge fan, and I speak truth to power. So there's plenty of skeptics on it, but that's what makes a market, and that's what's a horse race. And I always say, bet the jockey and not the horse. And between TJ, who's the chairman, I mean, this is a guy who, when Enphase, and that symbol ENPH, was having problems, he walked in and he bought a ton of stock at $1, raised money for the company, and the stock went from $1 to 300. So to me, if you've done something like that in your life, you can do it again. So I'm a huge believer in TJ. I'm a huge believer in his discipline. I mean, he's a hard ass. He's an ass kicker, but I think he's onto something here. I mean, no one can deny battery is an issue, and battery is a open-ended situation, and that's what I like to go along. So far, so good with Enovix.
And before we get to your other picks, just curious, what's your take on NVIDIA these days?
NVIDIA is an animal. I mean, people believe in AI, and Jensen's gotten it done. And I don't know where the stock is. Let's just call it 450 for rounding error. They probably shouldn't even trade the stock in digits. They should probably trade it in zeros and fives, 450, 455, 460. I mean, why even mess around with dollars and decimals? But AI is you can believe it or you cannot believe it. But if you're skeptical on AI, you're years and years and years too early, because this thing is going to take a long time to play out, winners and losers. It's clearly going to be a big thing one day. So from a skeptical side, I'd never be short any AI play right now. I would just look for hidden ones that can be long, that you can be long. And again, the one thing no one can deny is if AI becomes a thing, battery becomes the gatekeeper for AI. You can't do AI as a battery hog, an energy hog, if you will. And again, if you have battery and you can make your devices last longer and do more things, it's going to become a thing. I mean, think of it this way. I mean, I'm 63, you're 27.
Right.
But back when I was your age, before Duracell and these batteries were things, they used to have ever-ready batteries. I mean, batteries used to suck. You used to buy 5 batteries for $1 and they'd last about a week and you'd throw them out. Then they came out with Duracell or Duracell Ultra, and they last longer in things. That's what people want. If people are going to use handheld devices and things that have more power, you need battery to make it work. So again, I look for things that can be very big, that solve big problems, and I think this is it.
When you say there could be hidden gems in the AI space that would be long positions, I mean, have you started your homework there and uncovering ones you like, or too early?
Yeah, I think Enovix is the play. I mean, the street has yet to put one and one together, but the simple play to me is battery. I mean, I don't know whose chip is going to work. I don't know whose software is going to work. But the one thing I do know is if this iPhone that I'm using for this lasts 12 hours instead of 7, or 22 instead of 7, that's a huge plus. And if I can run AI on this phone or do things that the phone is capable of, it's a bigger deal. I mean, I'd love to use the Apple goggles to watch the Raiders and pretend I'm on the sideline, but I'm not going to drop $3,500 if the product only lasts 2 hours. Right. I mean, you could buy one for every member of your family, but you'd say for 2 hours, what's the point? Now, if it lasted 9, I'm sure it's a different thing. So, I mean, I think battery is gonna be the theme, and I think these guys have it. So that's what I know for now.
Marc, you were short Helen of Troy. You thought they were in big trouble when we last spoke.
Yeah, I still think they're in big trouble. I mean, the stock's gone up, the market's done better. I mean, I think the stock's up something like 14% for the year. The Nasdaq's up 30%. I mean, their earnings weren't good. They were down. Their accounting is fiction. Their sales are down. Their guidance wasn't any better. But people ran the stock, which I'm more than used to. So I'm short Helen of Troy. I think Helen of Troy estimates are too high. The CFO left. The new CFO came in, and it was disclosed he owned puts. The CEO is leaving at year end. I just think the thing's a mess. And I'm very happy to be short Helen of Troy against anything I own. That is for sure. That hasn't changed. It's actually probably on the margin a little worse, really, when I looked at those numbers. But there was nothing there to buy the stock. But if people want to buy it to play a squeeze game, I have zero issue with that.
When I asked you how you do all this investigation, you say it's simple, Daniela. You said you just, follow the money. So talk to me a little bit about the beef you have against Trupanion. Basically, they're a pet insurance company.
Yeah, now you're really getting me fired up at 8 a.m. I think Trupanion is a scam. I mean, Trupanion is a scheme, if you will, to get people who are crazy about their pets, namely their dogs, to buy pet insurance. And if you price out Trupanion's policies, you sign up for Chewy, let's say, which is an online, you can buy dog food there. You sign up for Chewy and you give them the age, type of dog, and where you live. Trupanion's policies are 4 to 5 times the price of lemonades. And they've raised prices a crazy amount. They're up 288% in California in the last 6 years. So they're gouging the consumer who uses their product, and the company's saying they're raising prices because of veterinarian costs. They're not raising the price because of veterinarian costs. Vet inflation's up 10. They're raising the price because the frequency of the sick dogs they insure is absolutely killing them. And despite raising the price, what they're raising it, they're still losing money. They're still burning cash, and they have a real capital constraint issue. And the thing that really got me going on this is back in either the end of March or early April, 3 executives were fired on the same day. And I've seen that happen, I think, 5 times in my career. And a year later, the stock is down 90%. Now, I shorted the stock. When I saw that, I knew what these clowns were doing. And I think the stock was 54 at the time. Now it's 25. But I think that this is a money-losing insurance company. Money-losing insurance companies shouldn't sell above book value. Tangible book value here is 5. So the stock's 26, 27, 25. It's somewhat volatile. So far we have, I'm long Enovix, I'm short Helen of Troy, and I'm short Trupanion. So that's on the table so far.
Curious to get your thoughts on what we're seeing in the crypto space. I mean, the SEC has now formally accepted BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF application for a review. Do you feel this will legitimize the space?
I mean, I think everyone likes Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's legit. I mean, if you're going to play in any of them, I think the real problem where I had a beef is I think all these exchanges are fraudulent or criminal enterprises. And I think time has pointed that out. FTX is done. I think Binance is done. I think Tether is probably next. All these other offshore guys have been indicted, shut down. SEC's after them. So I think it's these offshore exchanges which are truly problematic. And I think slowly but surely these guys are getting rid. I don't care really about crypto. I don't really care about gold. I find bad actors. And when I find bad actors, I point them out. So I've never been long or short any crypto. I was short Silvergate Bank. That's worked out. I was short Signature. That's worked out. I mean, these were money laundering enterprises for bad actors. And, they met their maker. So I'm not, I don't really have an opinion on crypto or that right now. I mean, if you like it, by all means play. If you don't, I'd stay away. But no, this stuff's very risky.
Any insights on what we saw on Coinbase? I mean, the SEC went after Coinbase, but look at the stock. How come they were able to weather the storm?
Well, there's a huge short interest in Coinbase, and it's very controversial, and it has its lovers and it has its haters. And the SEC is going after them. And I mean, we'll see. I have no position there. I know people who are short it. I know people who are long it. It's very, very noisy. I mean, they do lose money. They do have some debt. They are burning cash. The government is after them. I don't know why Coinbase needs to be so adversarial with regulators. They should just simply say, how do we get this done? How do we smooth this out? How do we make this work? But they don't seem to want to do that. So I don't know. I mean, I can't explain the stock at 100. I can't explain it at 50, 30, or 200. It's one of those where I say it's in the too hard pile, and I'm not interested in doing too hard. I'm trying to keep things simple. If you can keep it simple, if you can explain it in a paragraph or less to a 10th grader, you're probably onto something. If it gets too convoluted or too hard to explain or too difficult, you should probably stay away from it.
When I spoke to you last, it was in the midst of the banking crisis. I mean, that's obviously tempered. But now we have Bank of America bond losses widened to $106 billion in the second quarter, Mark. Your take on this health status of the banks in the U.S. right now?
Well, there's too big to fail banks, which is Bank of America, Wells, JP, Citibank, that crowd. And then there's the tier slightly lower, the super regionals. I mean, it's tough to be in the banking business right now. It becomes a confidence game. Everyone was, when the regional banks were in trouble. We're talking about commercial real estate, and that seems to have calmed down. But it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better for them. I wouldn't own any of them. But again, you have the government willing to stand behind these banks at any cost. And JP Morgan just gets stronger, and the too big to fail banks get stronger, and they're sure not going to let Bank of America go. And they'll find a way to kick this down the road, I think. And if rates ever go down again, which I'm sure they will, because Biden needs to get elected, and I think rates will peak somewhere in here. Then they'll say Bank of America's mark to market loss will go from $200 billion to $150 billion, and knowing the way Wall Street works, they'll say that's a positive. So I think there's a lot of can kicking down the road, and at some point all these banks should raise more money and get their capital back up to where it should be versus the crap on their books, I think. But
just as a final thought, Mark, I know you don't cover macro, but just curious if you've given any thought to this FedNow payment system that the Federal Reserve is introducing. Basically, they've made it clear it's not a central bank digital currency. Others would argue it's the first step in the path to one. Just generally, are you concerned about central bank digital currencies coming?
No, I'm not. I'm concerned that my shoulder still aches a little bit. I'm concerned. I watch Enovix, watch Overstock. I think Trupanion's going to hell in the handbasket, and I love speaking with you. Those are my concerns and issues. All this government stuff in the macro is way over my pay grade, and over time, all these issues, like they were worried about the government defaulting on the debt, and Janet Yellen, who looks like she's had a brain injury, trying to scare everyone. All I said is all this stuff always gets solved, and the can always gets kicked down the road. And it's important not to be too excited, and it's important not to be too negative, because the middle of the road is usually where this all goes. So for now, people seem they're having a good summer. There's too many fires up in Arctic Mexico, aka Canada, but people seem, somewhat happy and complacent, and things are rolling along.
Complacent.
So I'm not really that concerned about that much right now.
Marc Cohodes, I love speaking to you. You can find Mark on Twitter. He is the white knight of the Twitterverse at Alder Lane Eggs. Mark,
I'm there.
You're there 24/7. Love speaking with you. Come see me in Montreal.
Good. We'll go for some smoked meat. We'll go for some bagels. We'll tell the mob to be nicer to women. And this is the time of year. I'm not going to come see in the winter. Maybe in the fall.
All right. Well, I'll be here for a few more months. Thank you, Mark. And thank you all for watching. We'll have more incredible content coming your way. Our summer series off to a very hot start here. So be sure to stay tuned to the Daniela Cambone Show and sign up at danielacambone.com. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.